When you begin to understand that your life changes the moment you start asking better, empowering questions, something fundamental shifts inside you. Most people go through life thinking their circumstances control them, that the events around them are the reason they feel stuck, overwhelmed, or lost. But the truth is, your circumstances don't define you. Your questions do. Every thought you have is shaped by a question. Every decision you make is influenced by a question. And every emotion you feel begins with a question, whether you realize it or not. The problem is that most people are asking the wrong ones. They're asking questions that weaken them, questions that limit their vision, questions that focus on fear instead of possibility. When you catch yourself thinking, why does this always happen to me? You're already setting yourself up to stay small. When you ask, what's wrong with me? You're feeding doubt, insecurity, and helplessness. When you ask, why can't I ever get ahead? You're telling your brain to search for evidence that confirms limitation instead of potential. Your brain is a powerful machine. Whatever question you give it, it will answer. If you ask a weak question, you get a weak answer. If you ask a disempowering question, you get a disempowering life. But when you shift that question, everything changes. Imagine instead of asking why life is so hard, you ask, what is this challenge here to teach me? That single shift takes you from victim to creator. Instead of asking why people don't support you, ask, how can I become the kind of person who inspires support? Suddenly, you're no longer focused on what's missing. You're focused on who you can become. Questions direct your focus, and your focus is the most powerful force in shaping your destiny. If you focus on what you can't control, you feel overwhelmed. If you focus on what you don't have, you feel inadequate. If you focus on the past, you feel stuck. But when you start asking questions that move your focus toward growth, questions like, what can I learn from this? What can I improve right now? What is the opportunity hidden inside this setback? Your entire emotional state transforms. You begin to operate from a place of strength, clarity, and intention rather than confusion or fear. People often think transformation comes from massive external changes, but it usually starts with one internal shift, the shift in the questions you ask yourself daily. Think about the moments when you were struggling the most. Maybe you felt lost in your career, broken in a relationship, overwhelmed by responsibility, or disappointed in yourself. In those moments, if you look back, you'll realize that the questions you were asking only magnified the pain. You might have asked things like, why am I not good enough? Why do things fall apart for me? What if I fail again? Those questions pull your energy downward. They trap you. They blind you to solutions. But ask a different question, and suddenly you see a different world. Ask, what can I do right now to move forward even a little? And you shift from paralysis to movement. Ask, what strengths do I already have that I'm not using? And you shift from doubt to confidence. Ask, what is one small step that could create momentum? And you shift from hopelessness to possibility. The right question unlocks power inside you that was always there but dormant, waiting for direction. People who achieve greatness aren't necessarily smarter, luckier, or more talented. They simply ask better questions. Instead of asking if something is possible, they ask how to make it possible. Instead of asking whether they're ready, they ask how they can prepare. Instead of asking what happens if they fail, they ask what happens if they stay the same. These are the questions that create breakthroughs. These are the questions that elevate your identity. These are the questions that turn ordinary individuals into leaders, creators, innovators, and contributors. When you start asking empowering questions, your brain becomes your ally instead of your enemy. It begins searching for solutions, opportunities, and reasons to grow instead of reasons to shrink. It builds resilience, creativity, and emotional strength. You stop being the person who reacts to life and become the person who designs life. And the most powerful part is that this shift doesn't require money, luck, or perfect timing. It requires awareness. It requires honesty. It requires the willingness to challenge your old patterns and replace them with questions that align with the life you want to build. Once you understand this, you realize that every day is a chance to reshape your destiny simply by choosing better questions. You stop hoping for change and start creating it from within. You stop waiting for answers and begin generating them yourself. And slowly, question by question, you become the person you were always meant to be. Most people don't realize how much power they give away simply by choosing the wrong meaning in the moments that shape them. Life doesn't stop delivering experiences, some beautiful, some painful, some confusing, some that break you open in ways you never expected. But the experience itself is never the thing that defines you. It's the meaning you attach to it. Two people can go through the exact same situation, loss, betrayal, failure, rejection, yet walk away with completely different lives because they chose completely different meanings. One person decides it means they're not enough, that life is unfair, that the world is against them. Another person decides it means they have to grow, that they have to rise, that they have to become more. The experience didn't change, the meaning did, and that meaning shaped their destiny. You have to understand that your brain is always trying to interpret your world. It wants to make sense of everything, but it doesn't always choose interpretations that empower you. It often chooses meaning based on old fears, past wounds, childhood conditioning, and old emotional patterns that no longer serve you. That's why when something doesn't go the way you hoped, your first instinct might be to think you failed, or that you're not worthy, or that things will never change. But none of that is truth. It's simply meaning that you've been rehearsing for years, meaning that feels familiar but keeps you stuck in an emotional cage. And the moment you question that meaning is the moment you begin to reclaim your life. Think about a moment in your life when something painful happened. Maybe someone you trusted hurt you. Maybe a door closed that you desperately wanted to open. Maybe you were rejected when you were giving everything you had. In that moment, without even realizing it, you created a meaning. Maybe you told yourself people can't be trusted. Maybe you decided you're not good enough. Maybe you convinced yourself that life is always going to be hard. And that single interpretation became a lens you started to see everything through. The meaning became the story. The story became your identity. And your identity shaped your actions, your emotions, your relationships, your future. But imagine if in that same moment you asked yourself a different question. What if this isn't punishment? What if it's preparation? Suddenly the meaning shifts. Instead of feeling like a victim, you feel like a student. Instead of feeling broken, you feel challenged. Instead of feeling abandoned, you feel redirected. The situation doesn't change, but your internal world does. And that internal world is where your power lives. When you consciously choose meaning, you take back control of your emotional state. If something unexpected happens, you get to decide whether it means disaster or opportunity. If someone criticizes you, you decide whether it means you're not enough or that you're being pushed to grow. If a plan falls apart, you choose whether it means you failed or that something better is being built behind the scenes. Meaning is the difference between suffering and strength, between being stuck and being unstoppable, between replaying your past and creating your future. Every human being has moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. What separates those who rise from those who stay stuck is the ability to shift meaning in the heat of the moment. Leaders, creators, achievers, they don't escape difficulty. They reinterpret it. When they feel challenged, they don't ask, why me? They ask, what is this making me become? When they face failure, they don't say, this proves I'm not capable. They say, this shows me where I need to grow. When they feel overwhelmed, they don't declare defeat. They ask, what strength is this moment calling out of me? That is the power of meaning. It turns obstacles into fuel. It turns pain into wisdom. It turns confusion into clarity. If you look back at your life, some of the most difficult moments likely became the moments that made you strongest once you changed their meaning. Maybe losing something forced you to appreciate what truly matters. Maybe a heartbreak showed you your worth. Maybe a failure redirected you to something far greater. But you only realized that after the meaning shifted. Imagine how much more powerful your life becomes when you start choosing those empowering meanings in real time, not years later when the pain is a memory. You have the ability right now to stop letting old interpretations sabotage your happiness and growth. You can interrupt old stories and choose meanings that serve your highest self. You can take the same situation that once weakened you and let it become the foundation of your resilience. You can take the same pain that once silenced you and let it become the voice of your strength. And you can take every challenge you face and turn it into the very thing that expands you into the next version of who you are becoming.